Hello children, this is Sherline of Kathanika. I have an Aesop's fable for you today. It is called The Frog and the Ox. So sit back and listen. On the edge of an old reedy pool, there once lived a frog called Mumbo Frog. One day, Mumbo the Frog was playing with his friends amongst the reeds. The frogs were having a good time, when all at once they felt the earth rumble and tremble. Before they could understand what was happening, out of the thick reeds there came, thundering at the frogs, a great big ox. The ox was a huge one, the largest that the frogs had ever seen. The ox was rushing towards the water. Sensing danger, the little frogs jumped this way and that, taking shelter behind bushes or rocks, hurrying to get out of the ox's way. But poor Mumbo Frog, he wasn't fast enough. Unfortunately, Mumbo the Frog was in the path of the thirsty ox, and the great big hoof of the ox came right onto him. Patak! Mumbo the Frog was crushed. Mumbo the Frog lost his life at that very moment. Horrified and terrified, the other frogs fled the scene, running for dear life. The young frogs hopped, skipped and jumped as fast as they could to get away from the reedy pool. Hop, skip, jump. Hop, skip, jump. Hop, skip, jump. When they were a good way away from the pool, they stopped to catch their breath. As the terrified little frogs sat huddled on an old log, still shaken from the ordeal, they began talking to each other about the ox. "That was the biggest one I have ever seen in my whole life," proclaimed one frog. "True. Did you see the size of the tummy alone? Massive!" exclaimed the other. While the little frogs were thus talking, Jumbo Frog happened to pass by. Now, Jumbo Frog was so called because he was quite large in size compared to the other frogs. But Jumbo Frog was a vain young frog and quite proud and boastful of his huge size. When Jumbo Frog overheard the conversation that the little frogs were having, he thought they were talking about another large frog. Jumbo Frog was hurt to hear that some other frog was larger than himself. Without bothering to seek clarification as to who exactly the frogs were talking about, Jumbo Frog asked, "He could not have been bigger than me." The young frogs looked at Jumbo Frog. The little frogs thought Jumbo Frog was asking about the ox. So they answered, "No, Jumbo Frog, no. He was much larger. He was humongous. He was massive. He was monstrous." "I see," said Jumbo Frog, annoyed to hear the comparison. He puffed himself up a little. "Was he as big as this?" "No, Jumbo Frog, no. He was much larger. He was humongous. He was massive. He was monstrous." Silly Jumbo Frog. He took a deep breath and puffed up some more. "He could not have been bigger than this?" he asked with great difficulty. "No, Jumbo Frog, no. He was much larger. He was humongous. He was massive. He was monstrous," sang the young frogs again, gesturing with their arms to show the scale of the giant ox. Jumbo Frog had not realized that the little frogs were talking about another creature and not a frog. Jumbo Frog began to get angry. "How can some other frog be larger than me?" thought Jumbo Frog. "There must be some mistake." In a temper, Jumbo Frog puffed up some more. Now Jumbo Frog looked really large for a frog, but he was nowhere close to the size of an ox. Asked the stupid Jumbo Frog, who had taken in so much air and had puffed up so much he could barely speak. But the little frogs all declared that the ox was much bigger. Mad with rage, Jumbo Frog simply could not believe that another frog was larger than him. His pride hurt, and not wanting to accept defeat, Jumbo Frog kept puffing himself out more and more and more. Jumbo Frog's eyes popped out. Jumbo Frog's tummy was stretched and taut. Jumbo Frog's legs were stretched out under him. But Jumbo Frog kept on puffing up until patat! Jumbo Frog burst open. And that was the end of Jumbo Frog. Boys and girls, I hope you liked this story. If you did, to keep listening to many more stories, subscribe to our channel and share this story with your friends. Bye-bye for now.